The early morning sky was painted with soft shades of pink and orange as the sun began to rise. At a small airport, Flight 842 was ready to take off. The plane was a large passenger aircraft, filled with people heading to different places, each with their own story. Among all the travelers was a young woman named Myra. Myra was quiet and calm. She stood alone in the line at the boarding gate, holding a small, simple backpack. No one noticed her much. She did not smile or talk to anyone. Her eyes were steady, watching the airport staff as they checked tickets and passports. She moved slowly, almost as if she was thinking deeply about something important. Myra was given a seat near the middle of the plane, by a window. She settled into her chair with care, placing her backpack under the seat in front of her. Around her, families and friends were chatting happily, some looking out the windows, others scrolling on their phones or reading books. But Myra sat still, looking ahead with quiet focus. The flight attendants walked through the aisle, making sure everyone was comfortable. One of them, a kind woman named Lucy, noticed Myra's calmness. Lucy smiled softly and said, "If you need anything, please let me know." Myra nodded gently but did not speak. She closed her eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. The hum of the engines started to grow louder as the plane prepared for takeoff. Outside, the sky was brightening, and the world was waking up to a new day. As the plane lifted off the ground, the passengers leaned back in their seats, some closing their eyes, others looking out at the clouds. Myra watched the sky too, but her mind was far away. She thought about the road ahead, a path filled with unknown challenges. She was not just a passenger on this flight, she was carrying a secret. No one on the plane knew why Myra was there. She did not talk about herself. She did not share her plans. To the crew and passengers, she was just passenger 127, a name on a list. But inside her, a story was unfolding, one that would soon change everything. Hours passed quietly. The sun climbed higher, shining through the windows. Myra's hands rested on her lap, fingers lightly touching the small device hidden beneath her jacket. It was a radio, a tool that connected her to others far away. She listened carefully, waiting for a signal, a call, a sign that her mission had begun. Suddenly, the plane shook slightly. A soft warning sound came from the cockpit. The passengers looked around, some worried, others curious. Myra's eyes opened wide. She was ready. The captain's voice came over the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing some turbulence. Please remain seated and fasten your seat belts." The plane rocked again, but this time, Myra felt something else, a sense of purpose. She touched the radio under her jacket and whispered a name that only a few could hear, Shadow Hawk. In the world outside the plane, things were moving fast. At a nearby military base, radar screens lit up with an alert. An unknown aircraft was heading toward restricted airspace. Fighter jets were scrambled. Pilots put on their helmets and prepared to take off. They did not know who was in the plane or why it was there. But then, the pilots heard a call sign over their radios. It was a name they had not expected to hear again, a name that brought back memories of courage and sacrifice. Shadow Hawk. The young woman sitting quietly on Flight 842 was no ordinary passenger. She was a pilot, a protector, someone who had once flown among the best. She had disappeared years ago, and now she was back, carrying a secret that could save many lives. Back on the plane, Myra looked out at the endless sky. She thought about the past, the training, the missions, the friends she had lost. She thought about the future, the mission ahead, the danger, the hope. Her heart was steady. She was ready. Passengers around her continued to live their lives, unaware of the storm approaching. They smiled, read books, and talked quietly. But Myra was focused on one thing, the call that would soon come, the moment when she would no longer be just passenger 127. The hours passed slowly, the plane moving higher and faster. Myra's thoughts were quiet but strong. She was waiting for the right moment, for the right signal, for the right time to act. As the sun set, painting the sky in gold and purple, the captain made another announcement. We are now beginning our descent. Please return to your seats and fasten your seat belts. Myra prepared herself. She checked her backpack one last time, feeling the weight of what she carried. It was not just a bag, it was a symbol of trust, of hope, of a mission that could not fail. The plane began to lower, cutting through the clouds like a bird heading home. Myra closed her eyes for a moment and whispered again, "Shadow Hawk." No one on the plane knew the truth about passenger 127. But soon, the world would hear her story, a story of bravery, of sacrifice, and of a woman who was more than she seemed. Myra was ready to rise from the shadows and take her place among the heroes of the sky. The sky outside was clear, the blue stretching far and wide. Inside the control room of the nearby military base, everything was calm until a sudden beep broke the silence. The radar screen flashed bright red, showing an aircraft moving fast toward a restricted area. The officers on duty exchanged worried looks. Unknown aircraft approaching restricted airspace, the radar operator said, his voice steady but serious. The room filled with a quiet urgency. This was not an everyday event. Lieutenant Arun, the base commander, stood up quickly. Scramble the jets. We need to intercept and identify the plane before it crosses the boundary. 2 fighter pilots were already sitting in their jets, ready to launch. They had trained for moments like this, moments when the safety of the skies depended on their quick action and calm minds. They strapped in, checked their instruments, and waited for the signal. Meanwhile, miles away and high in the sky, Myra felt the plane begin to change course slightly. Her heart quickened. She had been waiting for this moment, but it still surprised her how fast everything could happen. She reached inside her jacket and pressed a small button on her hidden radio. A soft crackle came through the earpiece. "Shadow Hawk, do you copy? We have eyes on your flight." The voice was calm but firm, the voice of Commander Raj, leader of the F-22 squadron. Myra replied in a low whisper, "Copy that. I am passenger 127, but I am more. Standing by for instructions." Back at the base, the pilots received the message. One of them, Pilot Reena, looked at the radar screen, then at her partner. "Did you hear that? Passenger 127, that's her call sign. Shadow Hawk is real." Her partner nodded, a mix of surprise and respect in his eyes. "Let's do this right." The jets roared to life and shot down the runway, climbing quickly into the sky. Their sleek, powerful shapes moved fast through the clouds, heading toward Myra's plane. Inside the passenger plane, the other travelers were unaware of the military jets chasing alongside them. They smiled, talked, and looked around, some excited to be flying, others tired from early morning travels. Myra remained calm, but inside, she was ready for whatever came next. She looked out the window and saw the 2 jets appear, one on each side of the plane. Their presence was a silent warning something important was happening. The pilot's voice came over the intercom, calm but firm. Ladies and gentlemen, we are being escorted by military jets for safety. Please stay in your seats and remain calm. Some passengers looked nervous. A mother held her child tightly, while a man stared out the window with a worried expression. But Myra felt a strange peace. This was part of the plan. She turned to the young boy sitting next to her. "Don't worry," she said softly. "They are here to help." The boy looked at her with wide eyes but nodded slowly. He was comforted by her calm voice. In the sky, the F-22 pilots adjusted their positions to keep the passenger plane safe. Commander Raj radioed to Myra, "We need to confirm your identity before we can clear this flight." Myra took a deep breath and reached again for the radio. She spoke clearly, "This is Shadow Hawk. I am on a covert mission. I carry sensitive information that must reach its destination. Request your support." The pilots listened closely. Shadow Hawk was a name they had not expected to hear again, but they trusted the voice. "Copy that, Shadow Hawk," Commander Raj said. "We will protect you. Follow our instructions." Suddenly, the plane jolted slightly. The pilot's voice returned, "We are entering a restricted zone. Please remain calm and seated." Myra's fingers tightened around the armrest. Her eyes scanned the horizon. She could see distant clouds, but more importantly, she could feel the weight of what was at stake. At the military base, the officers watched every movement on the radar. The situation was tense but under control. They knew Myra was their best hope. Meanwhile, Myra opened her backpack just a little. Inside, wrapped carefully, was a small device, the key to a new technology that could protect the country from unknown threats. It was fragile and valuable. A sudden alert sounded in the cockpit. The pilot spoke quickly, "We have an unidentified object approaching. Everyone remain calm." Myra's heart pounded. She whispered into her radio, "Shadow Hawk to command. We are ready." The jets formed a shield around the passenger plane. They moved in tight formation, ready to act if needed. The pilots knew this was not just any flight, it was a mission that could change the future. Inside the plane, the passengers began to feel the tension. The flight attendants walked quietly, reassuring them without revealing the full truth. Myra sat back in her seat, her eyes focused ahead. She thought about the people on the plane, families, travelers, strangers, all trusting that this flight would bring them safely home. She whispered a silent promise to herself, she would protect them. No matter what. The sky outside began to darken as clouds gathered. The plane was moving steadily, surrounded by its protectors. The world below seemed far away, but the danger was very real. Commander Raj spoke softly into his radio, "Shadow Hawk, we are almost at the border. Prepare for the next phase." Myra nodded, even though no one could see her. She was ready to step out of the shadows and into the light. For now, she was passenger 127. But soon, she would be something much more. The sun had begun to dip low in the sky, casting long shadows over the vast stretch of clouds below. At the military base, the tension in the control room was thick. The radar screen continued to track the commercial flight escorted by the two F-22 jets, but it was no ordinary mission anymore. The pilots and officers knew this flight held more importance than anyone could see from the ground. Pilot Rena, sitting in her sleek F-22 jet, glanced at the plane ahead. She could see the larger aircraft clearly, its windows reflecting the fading light. But her thoughts were elsewhere, drifting to a name she hadn't heard in years: Shadow Hawk. That call sign was not just a code or a label. It was the name of a pilot who had vanished mysteriously during a critical mission years ago. Many believed she was gone forever. But hearing the call sign again from passenger 127 herself stirred a mix of hope and disbelief in the pilots. "Raj, are you sure?" Reena asked quietly over the radio. "Shadowhawk is real? On that passenger plane?" Commander Raj's voice came back steady, full of respect. "Positive. The voice matches. We have confirmation from our intelligence team. She's alive, and this mission is more important than ever." Back on the plane, Myra sat quietly, feeling the weight of the moment. She knew what the pilots thought, and she knew why her mission was so critical. For years, she had trained and prepared for this day to protect something greater than herself. Her mind flashed back to the past, to the days when she was a rising star in the Air Force. She had flown countless missions, earned respect from her peers, and carried the hopes of many on her wings. But one mission had changed everything. A secret operation had gone wrong, forcing her into hiding to protect the people she cared about. Now, years later, she was back. But no one could know her true identity except those who flew alongside her in the skies. As the commercial plane moved steadily forward, the pilots kept a close watch. They communicated carefully, passing instructions to keep the flight safe. The air was filled with the sound of radio chatter, calm but urgent. Suddenly, pilot Reena switched to a direct channel and spoke with clear respect. "Passenger 127, this is Reena. We are your escort. You are not alone." Myra responded quickly, "Thank you, Reena. I'm glad to know I have your support." The simple exchange carried a powerful meaning. It was a reminder that even in the quietest moments, courage and trust could shine through. Meanwhile, on the ground, news had begun to spread quietly among the highest officials. The mystery of passenger 127 was becoming clear. This was not just a routine flight, it was a mission to protect something vital. At the base, Lieutenant Arun watched the radar and listened to the communications. He knew the importance of the moment. "Prepare the ground team," he ordered. "We will receive the flight. Everyone must be ready." Back on the plane, Myra felt the closeness of the pilots around her, their silent protection like a shield. She glanced at the passengers, many still unaware of the danger they had passed. A woman sitting across the aisle smiled at her child, unaware that a secret hero was seated just a few feet away. A businessman reviewed his notes, while a young couple whispered softly, excited about their trip. To them, this was just another flight. But to Myra, it was a mission of hope. She touched her backpack gently, feeling the weight of the device inside, a tool that could change everything for her country's future. It was fragile, yet powerful. Suddenly, a calm voice came over the plane's intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching the airport. Please remain seated and fasten your seat belts." The passengers began to prepare for landing. Some looked out the windows, watching the clouds and the changing light. Myra stayed focused, ready for what came next. Outside, the F-22 jets moved closer, their pilots preparing to escort the plane safely down. The sun was setting now, turning the sky into a canvas of reds and golds. In the cockpit of one of the jets, pilot Reena spoke softly to her partner. "It feels strange," she said. "To fly beside someone we thought we lost." Her partner nodded. "It's a reminder that heroes don't always disappear. Sometimes, they return when the world needs them most." Back inside the passenger plane, Myra took a deep breath. She thought about the past years, the loneliness, the silence, the hidden battles she fought. But now, she was not alone. The pilots were there, the base was ready, and the mission was clear. She closed her eyes briefly and whispered a silent prayer not for herself, but for the people depending on her. As the plane began its final descent, the pilots in the jets formed a protective circle around it. Their movements were precise and steady, a dance in the sky that only the best could perform. For the passengers, it was a strange but safe journey home. For Myra, it was the beginning of a new chapter. The world below was waiting, unaware of the quiet hero soaring through the clouds. But soon, the truth would be known. Passenger 127 was more than just a number. She was Shadowhawk, a name that would be remembered, honored, and respected. And as the plane touched down safely on the runway, the F-22 pilots stood ready to salute the woman who had returned from the shadows. The plane had landed smoothly on the runway, the wheels touching the ground with a gentle but firm thud. Passengers began to gather their belongings, some stretching tired arms, others chatting quietly about their trip. But Myra sat still for a moment, her hands resting on her backpack. To everyone else, she was just passenger 127, but inside her heart, the weight of the secret mission pressed heavily. She looked out of the window at the two F-22 jets still hovering nearby, their pilots watching carefully, waiting for the right moment to move. They had kept her safe through the skies, but the mission was far from over. As the plane doors opened, the cabin crew began guiding the passengers down the steps. Myra rose slowly, careful not to draw attention. Her calm face hid the tension she felt inside. Once outside, the cool evening air greeted her. The airport was busy, but Myra's focus was on a small group waiting near a secure area. They were officials in dark suits and uniforms, people who understood the importance of what Myra carried. Lieutenant Arun stepped forward, his expression serious but respectful. "Welcome back, Shadowhawk," he said quietly. Myra nodded, her eyes meeting his. "Thank you for the escort. The mission was critical." He smiled briefly. "You did well. Now, we must move quickly." Inside her backpack was the device, a small, powerful piece of technology that could protect the country from unseen dangers. For years, many had worked in secret to develop it. For years, Myra had carried it with care, hiding it from those who might misuse it. Now, the time had come to deliver it safely. Myra followed the officials through a series of security checkpoints. Cameras and guards watched their every move, but the group moved smoothly, knowing exactly where to go. In a quiet room at the back of the airport, Myra was handed a new briefcase. The device was carefully placed inside, secured with layers of protection. It was heavier than it looked, not in weight, but in meaning. One of the officers, a woman named Captain Sarah, looked at Myra with deep respect. "This is more than just a package," she said. "It's hope for many people." Myra smiled softly. "I know. That's why I had to be sure it reached safely." The room was silent for a moment, filled with the weight of their responsibility. Outside, the two F-22 jets disappeared into the darkening sky, their mission complete. The pilots returned to base, proud to have protected the woman they once thought lost. Back in the airport, Myra prepared for the next step. She was to meet a team of scientists who would begin the work of using the device to its full potential. It was a long road ahead, but this was a crucial beginning. As she walked through the terminal, Myra thought about how her life had changed. Once, she had been a pilot flying dangerous missions, always in the open sky. Now, her fight was different, quiet, hidden, but no less important. Her phone buzzed softly in her pocket. She glanced at the screen and saw a message from Commander Raj, "Well done. We are all proud. Stay safe." Myra typed back quickly, "Thank you. This mission is not over." She felt a small smile. Even in the darkest times, the support of those who understood her made the burden lighter. Later that evening, Myra sat alone in a small room at a secure facility. The briefcase with the device sat on the table in front of her, a symbol of hope and danger all at once. She took a deep breath and looked out the window. The city lights twinkled like stars below, but Myra's thoughts were with the skies, the places she had flown, the people she had protected, and the future she was helping to build. Suddenly, her radio crackled softly. It was Commander Raj's voice, calm and steady. "Shadowhawk, your mission continues. New instructions will be sent soon." Myra nodded quietly, even though no one could see her. She was ready for whatever came next. For now, she was no longer just passenger 127. She was a guardian of secrets, a protector in the shadows. And though the world may never know her name, Myra knew her work mattered. It was the kind of mission that did not seek fame or glory, but something far greater: safety, peace, and the hope of a better tomorrow. The night was quiet, but Myra's mind was busy. Sitting alone in her small room inside the secure facility, she stared at the closed briefcase on the table. It was still locked, but she knew what was inside: a piece of technology that could change everything. For years, Myra had hidden herself from the world. She left behind the life she once knew, the bright skies, the sound of engines, and the rush of flying. All to protect something bigger than herself. But now, the truth was beginning to come out, even if slowly. A knock at the door made her look up. Captain Sarah entered, holding a folder in her hands. Her face was serious, but kind. "I have some new information for you," Sarah said as she sat down across from Myra. Myra nodded, her eyes never leaving the briefcase. "I am ready." Sarah opened the folder and handed Myra some papers. "This is what we have learned from the latest reports. The device you brought is more powerful than anyone expected. It could help protect the country from threats we haven't even seen yet." Myra took the papers and studied them carefully. The scientists were already working on understanding the technology inside the device. It was like a new kind of shield, one that could detect danger before it came. "That is why you had to come back," Sarah said softly. "Because only you know how to protect it?" Myra closed her eyes for a moment. The weight of the mission pressed down on her, but she felt strong. She had prepared for this for years. Suddenly, a soft beep came from the briefcase. It was a small signal, a reminder that the device was alive and waiting. Sarah stood up and smiled. "It's time for you to rest. Tomorrow will be a busy day." Myra nodded and followed her to her room, but her thoughts stayed with the device. She thought about the many people depending on her, not just those in the military, but ordinary people whose lives could be changed forever. The next morning, the secure facility was alive with activity. Scientists, engineers, and officers moved quickly, all focused on the task ahead. Myra walked through the halls with quiet determination. At a large conference room, Myra met the team who would help unlock the device's secrets. Among them was Dr. Amir, a kind man with a calm voice and sharp mind. "Welcome, Myra," Dr. Amir said warmly. "We are honored to work with you." Myra smiled briefly. "Thank you. I am ready to help." The team explained that the device was unlike anything they had ever seen. It could detect harmful signals in the air and protect against attacks before they happened. It was a breakthrough that could save millions of lives. But it was also dangerous if it fell into the wrong hands. That was why Myra's mission was so important, to keep it safe until the right people could use it. As the scientists began their work, Myra stayed close, watching every move. She asked questions, offered advice, and shared what she knew from her years as a pilot and protector. Hours passed quickly, filled with conversations and careful testing. The team worked late into the night, driven by the hope of a safer future. During a break, Myra stepped outside to get some fresh air. The stars twinkled brightly above, reminding her of the many nights she had spent flying under their light. Her phone buzzed softly in her pocket. It was a message from Commander Raj: "Stay strong, Shadow Hawk. We are with you." Myra smiled and replied, "Thank you. This is just the beginning." Suddenly, her phone rang. It was an unknown number. She hesitated but answered. A calm voice spoke, "Myra, it's time you knew the whole truth." Myra's heart skipped a beat. She recognized the voice immediately. It was someone from her past, someone she thought she would never hear from again. "Who is this?" Myra asked softly. "You will find out soon," the voice said. "But be careful. Not everyone wants this mission to succeed." The call ended before Myra could say more. She stood in the cool night air, her mind racing. The mission was bigger than she had thought. The danger was real and close. But Myra was not afraid. She was ready to face whatever came next. Back inside, the team continued their work, unaware of the secret phone call that had just changed everything. Myra returned to the conference room, her face calm but determined. She looked at the device, knowing that it was not just a piece of technology, it was a key to the future. And she was the guardian. The sun rose slowly over the secure facility, casting soft light on the busy workers inside. Myra had spent the night in a small room, her thoughts heavy with the mysterious phone call she had received. Someone from her past was watching, and the warning in the voice had shaken her deeply. She knew the mission was more dangerous than she had believed. As she entered the conference room, she found the scientists already at work. The device was being carefully studied, wires connected, screens glowing with new data. Dr. Amir noticed her entrance and gave a small nod. "Good morning, Myra. We made some progress last night." Myra smiled faintly. "That's good to hear. But I have something to tell you." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I received a warning. Someone doesn't want this device to be activated." The room grew quiet. The people around her understood the meaning behind her words. This mission was not just about technology. It was about trust, danger, and secrets. Captain Sarah entered with news from the security team. There was an attempt to hack into the facility's network overnight. Our system stopped the attack, but it was close. Myra's heart beat faster. The danger was not far away, it was here. "We need to be careful," she said firmly. "If the wrong people get this device, they could cause great harm." The team agreed to increase security, but Myra knew that physical guards were not enough. The threat was invisible, hiding in shadows and codes. As the day passed, Myra focused on the device. She watched the scientists work, feeling the importance of every small step. But her mind kept returning to the phone call. Who had reached out to her? What did they want? And why had they chosen now to speak? During a break, Myra stepped outside to clear her head. The fresh air was cool, but it brought no relief from the growing tension inside her. She looked up at the clear blue sky and thought about the freedom she once had flying above the clouds, feeling the wind in her hair. That freedom had been taken from her years ago. Now, her fight was different. It was a fight for safety, for hope, for peace. Suddenly, her radio crackled to life. Commander Raj's voice came through, calm but serious. "Shadow Hawk, report your status." Myra took a deep breath. "I am safe. But we have new threats. The device is being targeted." "Understood," Raj replied. "Stay alert. We will send reinforcements if needed." Myra ended the call and returned to the lab. The team greeted her with worried eyes. Dr. Amir said, "We have isolated the problem in the device's system. It was a virus, but we removed it." Myra nodded, feeling a small relief. "Good. But the fight is not over." As night fell, Myra prepared for a meeting with the top officials overseeing the mission. They needed to know everything: the technology, the threats, and her story. In the meeting room, she stood before a group of serious faces. The air was filled with quiet tension. She told them about the device, the warnings, and the call she had received. She spoke with honesty and calm, showing the strength she had built over years. The officials listened carefully, some taking notes, others exchanging thoughtful looks. When she finished, one man spoke. "Shadow Hawk, your courage is clear. We will do everything to protect this mission. But you must be careful. There are many who would stop you." Myra nodded. "I understand. But I will not fail." The meeting ended, but Myra stayed for a moment, thinking about what lay ahead. She was no longer just passenger 127. She was a protector, a fighter, and a symbol of hope. The mission was dangerous, but she was ready. As she left the room, her phone rang again. This time, it was Commander Raj. "We're organizing a secure transport for the device," he said. "Tomorrow, it will move to a safer location." Myra agreed. "I will be there. I want to see it through." The next day, the facility buzzed with activity. Security was tighter than ever, with guards watching every corner. The device was carefully packed into a new container, ready to be moved. Myra walked beside the team carrying it, feeling a deep responsibility. Every step was measured, every moment filled with purpose. Outside, the sun was bright, but Myra felt a shadow over her heart. The danger was real, and it was closer than ever. As the convoy moved through the city streets, Myra kept her eyes open. She knew that this mission was far from over. And no matter what came next, she would stand strong. Because she was Shadow Hawk. The sun was just rising, painting the sky with soft pink and orange hues. The city was waking up, but Myra's mind was focused entirely on the task ahead. Today, the device would be moved to its final location, a secure facility deep inside the mountains, far from any danger. The journey was long, and the risk was high. Myra stood beside the armored vehicle carrying the briefcase. The air was cool, and the quiet morning made the moment feel even heavier. She looked around at the team assembled: soldiers, scientists, and security officers, all ready to protect what they had worked so hard for. Commander Raj approached her, his face serious but calm. "Are you ready?" Myra nodded. "I am. This mission ends today." The convoy started moving slowly, the heavy vehicles rolling through the empty streets. Myra sat in the lead vehicle, her eyes scanning the roads ahead. She knew that enemies might try to stop them, but she was prepared. As the convoy left the city and headed toward the mountains, the landscape changed. Tall trees lined the road, and the air grew cooler and fresher. It was peaceful here, but Myra knew the peace was fragile. Suddenly, the radio crackled with an urgent message. "Convoy, this is Command Center. We have reports of suspicious activity on your route. Stay alert." Myra's heart beat faster. "All units, stay sharp. We may face trouble soon." The convoy continued, moving carefully. Myra watched the forest, looking for any sign of danger. After a while, the lead vehicle spotted something on the side of the road, a small group of people waiting, blocking the path. "Ambush!" Myra shouted. The convoy stopped immediately. Soldiers quickly took positions around the vehicles, shields raised and weapons ready. Myra's mind raced. She remembered all the training she had done, the moments in the sky where she had faced danger with calm and skill. "Stay calm," she told the team. "We will get through this." The attackers moved forward, but the convoy was ready. The soldiers held their ground, protecting the device and the people. Myra looked out the window and saw the faces of the enemy, determined, but not strong enough. She took a deep breath and spoke into the radio. "This is Shadow Hawk. We are secure. Prepare to move on my command." The soldiers nodded, ready for her lead. After a tense few minutes, the attackers began to retreat. The convoy moved forward again, the road now clear. Myra felt a wave of relief but stayed focused. "We're not safe yet. Keep moving." As the convoy climbed higher into the mountains, the air grew colder and thinner. The sun was higher now, shining brightly on the rocky landscape. Finally, they reached the entrance to the secure facility, a hidden building built into the side of the mountain. Guards waited at the gate, welcoming the convoy. Inside, the device was carefully taken from the vehicle and carried into the control room. Myra followed closely, watching as the scientists began the final steps of their work. The device was connected to new systems, its power ready to be used to protect millions. Captain Sarah turned to Myra, smiling warmly. "We did it. The mission is complete." Myra felt a wave of emotion. Years of waiting, hiding, and fighting had led to this moment. Commander Raj entered the room, nodding in respect. "You have done more than anyone expected, Shadow Hawk." Myra smiled softly. "I couldn't have done it without all of you." Later, as the sun set behind the mountains, Myra stood outside the facility. The sky was clear, filled with stars. She thought about the journey, the flights, the dangers, the silent battles fought in the shadows. She was no longer just passenger 127. She was a guardian, a hero in the quiet. And though her story might never be told in newspapers or history books, Myra knew something important. Sometimes, the greatest heroes fly without anyone seeing them. Sometimes, the strongest warriors are those who protect without fame. And sometimes, the smallest call sign carries the greatest meaning. Shadow Hawk had returned. And the skies were safe again.